Well, welcome back. You are still watching Morning Live. As I mentioned to you earlier, we are out at a Women in Sports Summit, just looking at addressing some of the challenges that women in sports face. I am now joined by Ngcobo from Cash and Sport. Ngcobo, you do a lot of work that looks around the finances that are involved in sport. When we look at women's sport at the moment, where would you say we're sitting just in terms of from a financial point of view and how women are able to actually make a living from playing sport, because it seems like it's still a challenge?
For the most part, most women are unable to make a living from playing sport. Only about 14% of media value goes towards women's sport. And women, I think, men make about 200%, over 200% more than women in terms of the amount of income that they generate from sport. So it's at a very challenging situation now where essentially most women, apart from the very few, are unable to make any money from sport, really.
And when we look at a summit like the one we're having today, just assisting women to learn how to better handle their finances, whether it is as an athlete, as an administrator, as a broadcaster, how much of a difference do you think this plays in overall as addressing the issues we face?
Yeah, education is hugely important, and having an understanding of where your brand value is, how to increase your brand value. Athletes, in terms of their management of contracts and contracting better, is hugely important, because it's very easy for women athletes to be exploited and be taken advantage of because of a lack of understanding. There's not a lot of resources available in the women's game with regards to understanding their brand value and all of those other things. So summits like this are very helpful for athletes, and trying to improve the level of understanding and knowledge, so that when they go out there and represent themselves, they put themselves in a better footing. So it's hugely important.
Indeed. I'm going to move this way now, and I just want to bring Ngcobo from Momentum into the discussion, because we're hosted here today by Momentum. Talk to me about why, as an organization, you decided to start the summit and be involved and sure. Be here today.
Sure. Good morning. Thank you for having me. So as you know, Momentum enables success, and we've done that for several years. We also have a history of supporting women athletes, and that history started with the female cricket team. So for us, as we've grown in what the brand narrative is, we've realized female athletes really need support, they need resources, and they need opportunities. That's why this session is being done. We are bringing them to class, because most of the gaps they have can be closed if they have learning, teaching, coaching, etc. And that's why Momentum Women Who Make Moves in Sport is here.
And I mean, when you say bringing them to class, you mean it literally, because ahead of the summit, there are case studies that are shared with the ladies. We've got a Professor Anita that comes and speaks to them. Speak to me about that element and how important Professor Anita is here today and over the next 2 days.
Sure. In curating and designing the program, we wanted to make sure that we give our women athletes the best of the best. The best of the best locally and the best of the best internationally. We cover a range of topics in day one around navigating your legal agreements, understanding how to build your brand on social media, dealing with reputational issues, understanding financial advice, and using your network to make money. And then on day two, we bring the prof, who, if you don't know Prof, I mean, why are we even talking? She lectures in Harvard. She deals with like A-list stars and athletes, and she is a specialist in the business of sports and entertainment. She brings a case study on global athletes like David Beckham, for example. She's had Toto Wolff in her class. She's dealt with Dwayne Wade and J-Rod and all of them, because that's what she's passionate about. She's done numerous research on this. So we want our women athletes to learn how to negotiate contracts, to learn how to commercialize themselves off the field, because on the field there's so many entangled issues around what determines their pay, and we want corporate South Africa to see them as brands that can support to connect communities to the propositions they sell.
And you speak so lovely about what you're looking to do. And when you look at the years that you've now had Women Who Making Moves in Sport, what is the feedback that you've received from the women that attend the summit and from the athletes involved?
Sure. One, they usually underestimate the amount of learning and work. It's literally learning and work all day for like a good 8-7 hours. So that's the first part they're surprised by. They love that actually we break it down, because a lot of them know how to play their sport. They may have studied, and often they've studied some degree at university, but no one has unpacked the commercial nature of their game, as well as the opportunities in the world to make money outside of the thing they're scientifically trained to do. So that's what they can expect. And networking. I mean, we've got incredible media here. We need you as media to know these women. And we've got brands coming to say what they look for before they sign them up as ambassadors. And I think it's really just a 2-day. That's the best way to celebrate Women's Day and Women's Month if you're a female athlete or anyone who cares about women on the field.
Indeed, and thank you so much to you guys for always playing your part, because I was speaking to Vusiwe earlier on and she was just like saying we do need more sponsorship, and there's one that has been consistent for women in cricket.
Yeah. You know, in issues around diversity, representation in terms of corporate jobs, we have scorecards that measure such. And I really think if we are deliberate as those who are driving sponsorship strategies, marketing strategies, you've got to have representation. So not all your sporting money or your sponsorship money should go to women, to male teams. And the other part is there are many executives who've got young girls. There are many executives who have nieces and female girl cousins who are passionate about the game. And their future is not going to be bright and beautiful if they can't get paid for the thing they love. So I want to challenge CEOs and FDs and sponsorship executives to really just give that much more money to female sports, yeah.
Indeed. And Ngcobile, let me come back to you, because when we speak about what Nontokozo is mentioning now about the challenges and the commercialization around women's sport, you generally hear people saying, well, women's sport doesn't give the same amount of eyeballs as you'd get from their male counterparts and male sport. What do you have to say to that? Because we look at the Euros a couple of years ago being sold out in terms of the women's final.
Yeah, so I think that's a bit of a misnomer. Firstly, in terms of time and attention, the investment in men's sport has gone on for decades, almost hundreds of years in terms of time and people investing into it. You can't then say because women have been excluded from being able to even play sport for so many years that we want the same product at the end of it. It's an unfair request. Secondly, in terms of the value of women's sport, let's not forget that last year the women's Barca game in the Champions League sold out more people than the men's game. The Cricket World Cup, when it came to South Africa, that was sponsored by the South African team, sponsored by Momentum, was the second highest, I think, in terms of the T20 Cricket World Cup. So women's sport are pulling in numbers. It's just those who are behind the scenes making decisions around broadcasting have to be brave enough to say we will support it, just as they did with men. You can't go and say, well, it's not pulling in numbers if you're not putting in the investment. You have to play your part as well.
All right, and I think the big takeaway here is we all need to play our parts, particularly from corporate South Africa point of view. Women do bring in the numbers. They are able to perform. We look at the Proteas making it to the final of the T20 World Cup. We look at Banyana for the first time getting out of the group stages and into the round of 16 out of the FIFA World Cup. The first senior national team to do that. So all we're saying is give women a chance. And of course, we'll be here at the summit today. It is the Momentum Women Who Make Moves Summit. Thank you so much to Nontokozo from Momentum, as well as Ngcobo from Cash and Sports. That's how we wrap up your sport news on Morning Live for this morning.